in a bit.
Oh,
Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Namaskaram, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. And today we have with us Dr. Abhishek Parashar. He actually is affiliated currently with the Hansraj College, teaching history at the University of Delhi. He received his doctorate from Jamia Millia Islamia University, Delhi. His research is based on 18th and 19th century trade communities and networks during this time. And he's also interested in exploring the interconnectedness between global history and regional history in the early and modern period. So today he will be delivering a talk on reconstructing social thought in Indic civilization. Very pleased to have him with us. And those who have joined, thank you for being here. We know you could be doing anything else at this hour, but you are here. So grateful for that. And of course, the Indology Academy YouTube channel, we will be putting this talk up as well for those who missed it. So namaskaram, sir. Welcome. And we will try to go like 40 minutes or so in terms of your talk and then open it up to Q&A.
sure, man, sure. Thank you so much for this introduction, and let me share this with you first. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anjali, for giving this lovely introduction and uh, for giving this opportunity to present my views, my ideas upon this topic titled as Reconstructing Social Thought in Indic Civilization. I hope I'm very much audible, very much clear. I hope there is no disturbance as such. Okay. So to start with a disclaimer that as ma'am has given my introduction till now, I am not someone who specializes in ancient Indian history. However, whenever I get time or whenever things are in favor, so I try to look into certain areas which are kind of a hobby, kind of they are kind of close to my heart. For example, specifically looking at religious and cultural traditions, and with a friend circle like Dr. Saurabh and everyone who keep on, suggesting and helping people like me in basically, preparing with this such certain kind of topics and certain kind of readings. So I come up with certain papers on these particular themes concerning the ancient Indian history. One of those is basically dealing with the text. Text in a sense, basically the Vedas, Dharma Shastras also. Specifically, I have looked into Parashar Smriti, Parashar Dharma Sutra, and Apastamba Dharma Sutra, Kalpa Sutra also. During my busier days before getting into teaching line as such. So this topic is basically is a kind of analysis out of these texts only, and as titled, this title is quite broad enough. I'm going to for this presentation I'm going to restrict specifically to the analysis of genders, analysis of women basically in these texts, and how over a period of years, over a period of academic studies, over a period of years, how this topic has been specifically looked in, how gender relations and role of women in society have been perceived. So with this, the present scenario, very recently, the past years National Crime Records Bureau report, which deals with crime of all sorts of crime, have come up 2023, and with respect to crime against women, the situation is quite grim in India. And the place where I'm sitting right now, Delhi, is considered to be one of the cities quite unsafe for women. And sadly, there is a jump in all sorts of crimes against women also. Overall in India, 4% jump and overall in Delhi, 18% jump past 1 year. So out of every 1 lakh women, there are almost 200 women who face kind of any kind of harassment or any kind of problems in their. This is one side of the thing, and the other side of thing that the government and a lot of sensible people from civil society, have continuously been striving from last, as many years, particularly in last 10 years, to empower women basically through a lot of schemes, and change the attitude of society towards the way women have looked into. And one of those, targets that the government, basically seeks to achieve is basically, establishing a connect basically with respect to women and their status in ancient period since the onset of our civilization, in which we have held women in high regard, and we should look back into all those areas basically, uh, to make the situation even better in future. So, with this specifically with respect to Indian history and Indian historiography concerning the position of women, and the paper basically, or the talk basically looks into analyzing the significance of text. As I've earlier said, that text, for example, Rigved in this case specifically, and Dharma Sutra, Apastamba, and Parashar's basically the societal attributes. Basically, it is an endeavor to analyze societal attributes concerning to femininity, to investigate the position of women within the Vedic and Dharma Shastra tradition. This all things that one have read, that in the earlier Vedic period, the status of women was quite high, and later on during the later Vedic period, it decreased, and so on and so forth. So how all this have been, analyzed, and how can we analyze, and is there something else also that we are missing? Is there some other point also that we are missing? So, if target our what you call it as analysis as far as Rig Veda is concerned, first of all, I'll take up the Veds, specifically the Rig Veda. So, in that, if you look at the context of feminine and what constitutes feminine in Rig Veda in the text, so the first one is basically, later on, as my talk will detail it out, that there are basically three kinds of attributes basically, in which one can study feminine. Femininity, as such, a definition is a set of attributes, behaviors, and roles which are basically associated with girls and women, and it is basically a social construct. For example, the difference of language, gender, and all these things. So with this, I'll come directly to a background of how we have reached up to this place in Indian historiography, specifically in Indian history. So women, as such, since the start of Indian history, in the modern sense, in modern parlance, as we know, they have come into the focus since the onset of what we call it as the form period of Indian, Renaissance period of 19th and 20th century. Scholars researching these Indian communities, also have specifically focused upon, the role of reform movements, basically in understanding or uplifting the status of women during this particular period of time, and uh, uh, as far as Rumila Thapar or Upinder Singh are concerned, we can take back this focus upon, research, or focus upon researching Indian women and specifically other communities also, the social communities also, up till the Vedic tradition, as back as Vedic tradition. So the modern Indian view of women, as per them, is basically rooted into Vedic era, or even before that also, in India's Indus Valley civilization. So, if we go about that, then the feminine characteristics, basically, in Vedic culture, can be looked into to determine the role of women, basically components like gendered language, symbolism, concerns of power, female deities, and their social status inside the Rig Veda itself, and all these things. Uh, However, during the colonial period and the nationalist period, responding to the colonial construct of social history, basically, establish new assumptions about India's past. So, starting with this, the Britain and the British sense of Indian history had two divergent, two diametrically opposite. The Orientalists basically wanted to restore, India's greatness also. uh, they always thought that the Indians or the Indian heritage might be different, but that doesn't mean that they are basically, they're not, they might be different, but they are not degraded as such. However, the other side, the utilitarians basically labeled Indian civilization specifically with respect to Indian women. So one of the foremost Orientalist thinkers, William Jones, who founded the Asiatic Society, reflects this Orientalist view. The divergent view presented by James Mill in his History of British India, he basically associates what we call it as Hindu disregard or disrespect for women, with all sorts of ancient traditions. They are found and they are rooted in ancient traditions. And as one of his quotes in one of his books, the History of British India specifically deals with this, which I've put it out here also. So he explains all this that the women were deprived of education since ancient times. They had no role in inheritance of property. They were not allowed to remarry also, and even in case the husband, because of some or other reason, is not present or is unwell or whatever reason, or and lots of all other kind of what you call it is limitations upon women. So with this, there was a response. Oh, still, if we associated with this only the second half of the 19th century itself, the effeminization of Indian men also started to take place under this that call it as establishing Indians as barbarians or incapable of any kind of holding themselves as physically stronger or physically capable to challenge the white man, uh, that case. So Macaulay also have one of the writings have specifically targeted or have written about Indian men particular sense, which I have also written in this presentation. However, the response to from later on from the uh, it is nationalist history, School of Nationalist History, writing specifically from A.S. Altaker, they had to find a certain what we call it as an anchor in ancient history, basically look at it all these things and claim what we call it as rightful status of women in Indian history. They have to associate up till a point from where they can draw these things out. And from there onwards, this fascination or the study of Vedic era and how that era was basically the highest, the finest time or the highest age for women that was there. So it had started off. Altaker in his book in 1938 had specifically written about all this, the uh, high status of women in Vedic society. So, with this, as a background, what we can, can discern is this basically that in academics, this debate upon status of women, starting from the Vedic period itself, is become quite a complicated thing. And even the critics, when they come and have their point regarding the low status of women vis-a-vis men during those periods, the problem is this that the understanding of various domains or spheres of social functioning basically they collide. Basically, for example, the understanding of what domestic space was, or understanding of what political space was, and basically how the various genders, in this case male and female, basically dealt with both of those. So there is a continuous confusion regarding this, and then with this, whether how these realms influenced each other or not, or can we take them as a monolith? These are all questions and mostly under this scheme of thing only the intervention of Buddhism and Jainism or the Shramana movements basically as a counter to Vedic thought in uh, 6th century before Common Era basically are looked at as a counter to degradation of women and as a counter to Vedic status of women. They they came up as something what we call it as which when social status was far much more higher than compared to the Vedic text. So in this, if we would see, so one of other than Vedas also the Sanskrit epics and Puranas, which are not histories as such, but do provide us certain partial narratives of what women have, what women or what various social constructs of various communities, including women also. They do give us certain ideas also. And that I have specifically highlighted this point because one of my writings, which I have been doing, specifically deals with certain portions of Ramayana and Mahabharata and status of women in those texts, very specific selected areas, and basically analysis upon that, which is an ongoing process. So even from there, from those texts also, from Sanskrit epics and Puranas also, as our is known as an Itihas Puran, yeah, we can, we can bring about certain historical consciousness or certain historical facts, what we can call it, is out of the way. So they also become a source of understanding. Now coming to Ved, specifically Rig Ved, as the oldest Ved, there is a lot of challenge because it is very tough to read. That sense that it has to be, it's not a book as such. Just, the kind of note that I have written upon this is that uh, for an indologist, basically it is easier to know what a Rigved is, easier task to know what Rigved is not than what it actually is. That means to say that there are so many contrived assumptions that are there among scholars regarding this text that first we have to differentiate between that what exactly it is not rather than focusing what it is. So it comes as it is a book, it is one of the oldest book and all this thing. So in this, one of the famous Indologists like Fritz Stahl have noted this that basically, it is regarded as a set of 10 books which are mysterious and sacred. And however, it is important to note that they are not books in conventional sense. They are oral compositions memorized in an extremely precise manner for centuries, and these compositions are composed in a language that was popular during that period of time and thereafter transmitted orally for generations. And presently, what we have is 10 mandalas, referred to as the 10 books or 10 parts of the Rig Veda. Mandala, in this sense, means a circle of states. That means it has nothing to do with book sense, conventional book sense as such. And it is due to the superimpositions of colonial thought that in the Indic thought that these Vedas were understood simply as books. Uh, the term book is more appropriate for literary texts like Quran in that sense or Bible, not for Veda specifically. And moving forward, book sense would come up in that case where you have a central authority to deal with. Vedas do not have a central authority also in this case. And the thought that has been imbibed in Vedic tradition is different from what colonial period or colonial scholars have perceived it to be. So, uh, uh, another important, what we call it as adjective attributed to Vedas is that they are apurusaya, that means not written by humans. Uh, uh, and this adjective such an adjective nowhere is associated or attributed to Rig Veda in its hymns. Other there are names of different sages and the families who compose the hymns. It is like this that it has been compiled or composed of. It's only in Purv Mimamsa, a philosophical system that developed much later, that this idea has come up from. So they have been called as Shruti. That is why they have been addressed as Shruti. That is what is heard of. And again, in a very truly limited manner itself. So facilitating the dissemination or transmission from father to son, or from one school, from one generation to another. And they do exhibit a decentralized tendency of composition and dissemination also. Specifically Rigved, which has got no supreme authority at all. It doesn't concern with a single pope, or it doesn't concern with the church. It doesn't concern with a certain, as I've told you, there's no central authority as such. Uh, so what they were then in that case, that rishis basically compiled them, the sages who compiled them, have reflected the concerns of societies around. They were dealing with the environment that they were in. Therefore, Rigved, is kind of an enriched presentation of Indic thought that existed in early Indian societies. It embodies a civilization, concept of civilization. So, from moving on to that, the periodization of Rigved, again, a very controversial and topic that I will not take up now. But moving further ahead, there are, as in Rigved, there are several schools, popularly known as sakhas or branches, whose responsibility was to preserve, transmit, and disseminate the knowledge. These schools specialize in different Vedas also, and the associated text also. So they were composed and employed basically in that particular form of that school itself. These came to be known as later on as Sutras. Along with these Vedic pretext of that school is known as Samhita. So that is why Rig Veda Samhita, that is there, and which form the collection of hymns and chants. So these Vedic Samhitas further evolved with an extension of supplementary literature such as Brahmanas and Annagyas. While the different sakhas shared, different branches shared common text, they differed mainly with different Samhita receptions. So moving forward, as we have come to know that a Ayurvedic text gives us fair knowledge of various Vedic sakhas, which list five shakhas of Rigveda: Sakala, Baskala, Asmanalala, Sankyana, and Mandukayana. Uh, in other places, it is also referred as Mandukaya branch also. So these are out of these only. As of now, it is said that most of them are nowhere presently. One of them is only present, that is known to us right now, is Sakala Samhita. And the other one, that is Sakala Samhita, is also partially known, partially present in us. Others are not there. They're lost in time. So with this, moving ahead, into basically what all things we can discern from Rigveda as far as feminine aspects and all. Uh, 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 so in this, if you say so, gender relations, are assessed by examining culturally prescribed roles assigned to different genders within the community. There has to be a clear distinction between household and the political sphere with respect to gender relations. So, significant connections between domestic sphere, matrimony, family relationship, autonomy over bodies, male authority, and other gender-related issues. And how they have been accessed. That this can be one of the ideas to understand this, what feminine in is. So, moving on to next, as I have earlier explained in my talk, that we can divide uh, Rigved understanding of the feminine aspect of society in Rigved into three broad categories: the insentient, and the transcendent. So, the insentient, the language and symbolism can be seen. Insentient, you can see. other issues, and the transcendental we can see some other. Starting with this, the sentient view, basically, it is the politics of language. Rigved, to be very clear, has got a very strong sense of gender, uh, gender attributed to various beings also. And the author held notions of speech with utmost reverence, and a lot of deities also, and a lot of other mediating bridges, basically words of speech which were mediating bridges. They have been uh, in a certain form, basically. Even references to male deities have also been done with the help of feminine adjectives. So, for example, if in God of fire, Agni is attributed to a feature that this is an energy giver, and the words feminine. So, one of this is focus upon this. Similarly, another one is this that another example in this is luminosity or the sun god or Vishnu Devas have been has been it has been associated with luminosity or uh, uh, he's revered, or the sun god is revered because of its luminosity, feature which is seen as feminine entity in the text. With respect to other important aspects, example, for knowledge, the terms that have been used are and Veda. Again, these are feminine imaginary in its context. Uh, Others for fulfillment of welfare swasti, which is again a feminine feature, perceived as a feminine feature, and all sorts of imageries that have been used in the text basically reflect position of can be made as a point to uh, you know uh, that the position of women in the terms how they received and venerated by the Rigvedic society, specifically by men. Uh, for example, cow that gave milk has been revered in Rigved, and the gender subscribed to cow is that of female. Similarly, the imagery of earth have also been considered as feminine or as a source of as a source or as a provider. In some instances, the two imageries have been used together in a romantic sense also, where the gravity of emotive aspects also. For example, an analogy have been made in two rivers such as Vyas and Satluj, compared to cows which go and meet the sea as their calves. Uh, the imagery of feminine as a provider has been is a constant feature of Rigveda. It is a constant, recurring motif in Rigveda. And as per Jamison, it is one of the in the sixth mandal where rivers are projected as feeding the ocean. Particularly, one of the striking verses in which the subject is described as a seductive woman or a tender mother, basically a characterization that contrasts sharply with with the violence of battle. Uh, so, such kind of representation, specifically with this respect, has been shown in the ancient. Uh, Moving on, next feature that is the sentient feature. The sentient aspect basically deals with the legal rights of daughters are concerned with reference to Sridhana, a share in the wealth of the father, which is given at the time of the marriage, a share in the institutional property. In the absence of brother, how much does it she gets a share naturally, or in absence of brother, does she gets a share? Or a grandson inherits maternal property, what all things uh, around this, and in case single woman who is unmarried also. So, focus on, inheritance of property. So, you know, uh, This aspect specifically, focuses on skills and across different domains of society, uh, and in different spheres such as family also and politics also. The Rigved emphasizes on institution of family so much so that it further makes a woman the center of the house. Wife is the home. Basically compares wives at place where wife is the home is. In the domestic spaces, women have been represented as daughters also, wives also, and mothers. Nationalist viewpoints have tried to argue the viewpoint as the golden age for women during the nationalist period of history. Uh, the birth of sons is claimed has been wished at several places in India. It should not. It should also be noted that the birth of girl child is not shown unwelcome. It is shown mostly that the birth of male child is being wished for. However, the birth of female child also is not unwelcome. So there are certain aspects of this. One has to see into the composition of various dozen. So there were daughters also, there were wives also, there were women who chose not to get into marriage also, and there were widows also. Famous in this, if we can recall the famous Gargi Yagyavalkya discussion. So Gargi, the discussion is quite popular, but before that, the Gargi, when she embarks upon that Shastrarth, which she counters Yagyavalkya with his questions, she has a discussion with her father and mother regarding her future, if she wants to get married or not. And she basically says that she's not interested and she wants to attain maximum knowledge, study. So the family, doesn't push her to basically get it. And this shows attitude. Because like this, also remain unmarried or
Dr. Prasher, sorry to bother you, disturb you, but sometimes your voice is cutting out. Is there anything we can do to fix that just to keep this smooth?
okay. I'll do this. Is it okay now?
Yes, let's see.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let us, examine the first category in this. That is the daughter and her place in the Rigvedic society. So, as per J.B. Chaudhary, the significance with this, there is no, as per him, there is no, what you call reference in Rigved, basically depreciating the birth of a daughter. Uh, if we'll cite him, so it is worth noting that the significant extent of the scholarship to provide gender neutral terms in text were used. They cited several instances to prove this and said that Manna Dharma Manavaha, to say man is mortal simply equal to women too. Okay, so as per him. Also, Shakuntala Rao Shastri makes an interesting observation where she tries to observe various names by which a daughter was assigned different roles in society. For example, Kanya and Duhita were two of these names that were still very popular in many Indian societies. But the word Kanya had other variants too, which eventually became obsolete in literature. These terms were Kanikana, Kanyana, and even later as more muted form Kanyala. Okay, so Shastri cites these different commentators who broadly inform meaning of Kanya and its variants to be young, attractive girl. Therefore, we see the girls of different age groups were defined distinctly, and this is striking to notice that Smritis, later on Smritis, had reduced the age of Kanya and fixed it to be up to age of 10. So the daughter was engaged in household works like looking after cattle and was called Duhitra. If the Vedic economy was a pastoral one, then the term Duhitra suggests the role of women that played in the Vedic economy also. So this is how, if we will look in this case about the sentient. So specifically, if we look into the case of daughter, so good amount of literature, good amount of work, good amount of hymns have been attributed to them, and their analysis showcases this, that her role in economy, her role in society also was much appreciated one. Uh, 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 Marriage was also an important institution in Rig Veda. It seemed that women exercised choices in matrimonial affairs also. They entered into matrimonial alliances after having attained a considerable age. Vedic terms suggest that Vedic tradition saw considerable freedom on path of both men and women in this case for choosing suitable wife and husband also. So in this case, Keith suggests that in this case, one of the scholars' analysis is that the parents did not control the choices of matrimonial alliances as far as the adult children were concerned. The hymn regarding Surya's bridal marks that the bride was fit to procreate when she was married. Okay, so this highlights this particular point. It has also been observed that the basic characters of three kinds of marriages were there. So the one was Rakshasa, another one was Swayamvara, and the third one was Prajapati, as been referred in Rig Veda. Specifically, in this case, only one instance can be seen in which another kind of in which a sage whose daughter was reluctant to get married, and it has been categorized in a different set of marriage. So these have been explained in this. Another category of women, another position of women, was with respect to women and her position in the household, basically as a wife. So she is shown as the axis of the household, along which the whole home moved around. She is attributed with bliss, with lofty adjectives such as Kalyani or Sivatma. And women after marriage also were keen to have different roles to play in household. She has been called as Jaya, Jani, Patni, and all these adjectives have been used for her. She is the consort of her husband, mother of her children, and Patni and partner in the rituals also. So she shared household responsibilities also and exercised political authority with respect to sacrificial ceremonies and rituals also. Engaged in other forms also, like for example, expression of sexuality also. So women's image as a romantic consort also is very well defined in Rig Veda, and couples were much appreciated one during this period, and the sports that they used to play were also very much appreciated. So, with all this, the norms of procreation for wives were also very important in this, and this gave, according to Upadhyay, the political authority to a wife, basically. The image of or imagery of mother in Rig Veda is also one of the areas that can be seen under this broad category of sentient, and she holds a very powerful place. The main motive occurs here in the text is with respect to fertility. For example, the wood has been referred to as the progenitor of Agni. Again, an imagery has been used over here. Just as the prominent features of deities have feminine genders, fertility and motherhood have been credited with existence of those deities. Specifically, deities like Agni were not born out of nowhere. They had to be conceived by female deities in this case. Usa gave birth to Agni in this case. So similarly, all these things have been also, have been have been explained in this way. One of another area to study or to that can be discussed under this theme is how the daughters depend upon their parents for their livelihood in young age. So, as I've already earlier explained, that the daughter could remain unmarried and could stay at home even in her old age, and this have been very much explained in Rigved book number 2, in one of the hymns, in one of the hymns of the book number 2. It is also worth observing that the single daughter with no brothers were free to choose their consort without interference from parents and brothers also. So again, in book number 1, it has been in one of the verses in book number 1, it has Rigved book number 1, it has been explained. Uh, Community also supported such women, and scandalizing acts against modesty of such women were also abhorred for. So they were not, liked by the community, and they were not supported by the community also. Regarding the sum given to daughter as Tridhan, regarding this, in absence of a brother, the daughter would get her share. So, and the grandson inherits their maternal property. This has been referred to in Rig Veda. uh, Moving ahead, on to the next, you know, uh, next third theme to understand the to understand the feminine Rig Veda is the transcendental, the third category that basically emanates from mythological cosmos in this. So, with different rituals and sacrificial ceremonies at very core, this can be referred to as the focus of religious activities in Rig Veda, and the Rigvedic gods engaged in all sorts of participating in were eager to participate in all such rituals, and they mediated between humans, and some of the gods mediated between humans, and also through offerings of sacrificial oblations, and the higher gods were receivers of all these offerings, and they granted health and wealth also to their hosts. So, in this, if you would see, our perspective on women also, shapes up through this, through one of this particular imagery of transcendental also. So, the different gods that are listed in Rigved, the most celebrated one, most popular one, as everyone knows, is the Indra, Agni, and Soma. While maximum number of hymns have been dedicated to Indra, almost a quarter of them, his counterparts and whose names have also have a what we call it as good about their existence. For example, Surya, Vayu, Usa, and others. There is also the god whose mythology, he is one of the god whose mythology is well developed in the time of the composition of Rig the another one is Agni. He also became quite significant Rigvedic ceremony centered around him, around the ritual fire, basically. The you know it uh, Before beginning with the female deities, it should be highlighted that Indra, as the most prominent deity, has defined parentage. The identity of Indra's mother is not clearly revealed in Rigveda. The fact he was born of a womb is well pronounced in the birth hymn. It is even assured by his mother that he would emerge victorious against all enemies. It is worth noting that the most important god, as the most important god, he needed the assurance of his mother basically to embark upon the task that he had taken upon. So this particular aspect has been repeated in Rigved with respect to many male gods, in which they constantly need a validation from a female deity to basically embark upon the task that they have been given. So now moving on to female deities, some of the major female goddesses like Aditi, Indrani, Urvasi, Yami, Viswati, Sarmana, Devasuni, Surya, Savitri, all such goddesses have been explained, and their names have been there. They have been explained and associated with specific strengths and cults also. Some of them, for example, Aditi, whose name itself uh, means boundlessness and freedom, unbinding. So all such categorization and etymological references have been given to various goddesses also. Uh, Even the famous Indologist Max Muller has also expressed that Aditi was one of the earliest expression of infinite, as per him. So, uh, uh, one of the interesting, aspect regarding Aditi is this, that she's not subjugated to the norms of good behavior. Rather, that she's codified the right behavior that her son, the Adityas, basically represented. That In the later Vedic traditions, however, the motherhood of Aditi actually emerges as the defining feature of her identity, and therefore she came to be revered as mother of several deities. It seems that the gods in Rigvedic tradition were validated if they had certain parentage, and specifically with respect to their maternal lineage. Another goddess, important goddess, is Usa, the goddess which represents dawn. Is She's one of the most important female divinities, and in this case she often is shown dressed up in a varied multitude of colors, exhibiting charm also at times. She danced also to showcase dance also to showcase her expression. Dawn's rise from Eastern Ocean is compared to women's emerging from her bath also in Rigved. So such kind of sexuality of women is also explored in such kind of in hymns. So in Rigved. So another interesting feature regarding Usa is her ability to born and reborn every day, thus reminding the humankind of the passage of time, perpetually and naturally also. So there is a hymn that also concerns with the kind of animosity between Indra and Usa, so much so that he once smashed her cart also, and she had to run away. So there is this, upon this specifically, there has been analysis that why Indra has to do this or to target the emblem of benevolent femininity. So Indra was a male god and was validated by making an attempt basically to subjugate the female goddess Usa. So in this case, the confrontation has been shown as masculine, between the masculine and feminine domains, uh, uh, as uh, uh, direct confrontation between them. Uh, so so uh, so lots of such deities, like Prithvi also has been showcased, and all these have been showcased and has been explained in Rigvedic tradition. So, moving on to this, if we'll conclude this, so the gender or the femininity or the question of femininity has been covered into three notions, as we have discussed: the sentient, the insentient, and the transcendental. And the language becomes a point of convergence in the text, and uh, women had authority over their bodies, and the male deity exercised their power through mediation of female deities. One more aspect which I'll hardly take 2 minutes to explain, because there are other texts also associated with this, as I've explained earlier in my talk. For example, the Apastama Dharma Sutra and the Parashar Dharma Sutra also. So one of these, specifically the Dharma Shastras, as they are known as, they are basically a kind of tradition, scholarly tradition, dealing with the various concepts of, dharma, or the way the society has to function. So the first one, that is the Apastamba Dharma Sutra, which is of before Common Era period, and Patrick Olival has translated it and has provided commentary over it. uh, has said that it has got one of the most liberal viewpoints with respect to a lot of questions with respect to gender roles, also with respect to inheritance, also with respect to marriage age, all these issues. So a lot of direct, what you call hymns and mantras have been, I have explained out here. Some of them I have explained out here, which suggest that women's right to inheritance was being supported into the legal or social legal text also at that period of time. One of the commentaries done by Harabhatta during 11th and 12th century on Apastamba Dharma Sutra also clarifies. It is a bhashya which clarifies upon a lot of these issues. So even during, if you'll take it that during the medieval period also, these commentaries actually supported the ancient notions with respect to women's right to inheritance, or their right to levirate, or their right to basically choose their partners. So this is one of this. Another one in this provides a point, provides an argument with respect to women, with respect to niyog marriage, basically. Uh, uh, Another Pastamba's Sutra Haim basically discusses with respect to women and their ability to basically take knowledge, also to study also, and basically one should listen to women. Basically, their idea should not be sidelined as such in a patriarchal world as it happens generally. So this is also there. Another important text which is of early medieval period, that is Parashar Dharma Sutra, also specifically raises questions with respect to women's right to inheritance and their role in society, their right to exercise marriage, widow remarriage, and all this. And it is again quoted as a quite a liberal text. So the point that comes up is this, that taking up certain shastras and during the colonial period as it happened, and through them creating a picture of Hindu society, that the social legal texts during the ancient period basically were very conservative, were very orthodox, and basically they were responsible for a lot of degradation of women also in this case, and other social communities also in this case. And the text provided all sorts of legal sanctity to all these things, is kind of selecting us or reading a select portion of text, certain text. Uh, if one goes on to this exercise, there are a lot of other texts also which do provide liberal interpretation, and which explains things in such manners which one should look at, one should understand also. And as this is the golden rule also, that society mostly runs upon a old society which is surviving since thousands of years, like Indian society, Indian civilization, which is continuously, without any break, despite all kind of challenges, is running. It would have done so based upon a lot of liberal interpretation, a lot of liberal text only. This is what we call it as the golden rule also. You uh, if you would if you don't bring about that, then there will be obviously a lot of resistance from a lot of sections in society. So this portion specifically has not been highlighted into academics also, and in a lot of other, what you call it as, social aspects also, while writing history. So this is what I wanted to bring about in this, and this is the end of the talk. Sorry for a lot of disturbance or interference with respect to Mike. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. A couple of quick comments, and then I will request Dr. Vikas Verma to say something. Another thing is I see familiar names in the
Uh,
Zoom
None
meetings,
of you are
so thank you.
audible. I can't hear you, any one of you.
Do you hear me? Um, Hopefully you can. Dr. Verma, will you please give us some remarks? And if anyone has a question, please do put it in the chat. One quick thing I want to say is there's so much that is untouched. So when students come to us, come to me all the time, like, oh, what should I take up as a dissertation topic? What should I write my paper about? Well, here are the Dharma Shastras, the Dharma Sutras. I mean, this work, especially studied in the original language, which is, Sanskrit for the most part. Here are tons of topics that people can take up as academics. So just kind of, I had to make that comment. Dr. Verma, if you want to unmute yourself, please. And thank you, sir.
I think he's on mute, I suppose.
Okay, sorry. Now it's okay. Audible.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So
Hi.
namaskar to everyone. Thank you, Anjali ji. And I am sorry that I joined a bit late, but I could gather what Abhishek ji was saying, and what he said was that very much relates to today's topic of discussion. That when we talk of Indic thought, so it's a very wide area, but he was touching upon one that women issue and gender role, and that because when we talk about society, when we talk about the affairs during ancient period, then one very important point of discussion with respect to ancient India is the role of women, and which is very much contested among scholars. And so he touched upon that topic, as a part of the Indic thought. My suggestion would only be that, because I saw in the poster and the topic that it is uh, like reconstructing. So I think why do you want to reconstruct? It's already there. So I think revisiting or reviewing will be better. Revisiting, because thoughts are already there. Why should we reconstruct, isn't it? I think Abhishek would agree, or he would say no, because we all are on the same page. And I think already our ancient literature and all contains lot of things which
But,
have been
but
untouched.
I, I,
And
I gave
uh,
that disclaimer at the beginning of talk only that
uh,
my specialization, I am a novice in ancient history. It is just an attempt. You're very much right. Things are already there. I
Yeah,
would
yeah. So I think
certainly.
there is no. It was a very good. You added lot of information that there is no problem with that. In fact, this area is not also not my expertise is also not in this area, but I could gain a lot what you discussed today. So I think I before summing up, I think if anyone put forward some questions or something, that would be better, Anjali ji.
Sure.
So
We can take two questions, sir, and then I know we're moving on to other things. We have a lot of events today, so two quick questions. If anyone wants to ask a question, please do. I even see Dr. Elt around, um, if he wants to say something. Any questions?
He is an inspiration, man.
Yes, of course. And I mean, we're to have even, of course, Dr. Verma. I'm just supremely grateful for the comments. I want to say this paves the way for what we call as Indic feminism, right? Very different from the Marxist views, the Western views of the typical left. So even though I know I don't want to put words in your mouth, I want to say this gives us a chance to look and examine Indic feminism. Again,
yeah,
not my
right.
area
Uh,
either, not my area. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would add to that, and what Abhishek ji also said. It's very interesting that even person like Max Muller, no, he also praises our literature, and he says that there is element of liberty in our ancient text. So that's great, and that has been, in fact, that has been hidden. And why Max Muller as an Indologist is known, that's for many other things. Why he took the name, and he never came to India, but he translated the sacred book of the East and what he has written. But we know much for that, but these hidden things or this less explored things, that should come to light. So that is one thing. And I think we need to highlight also the question of property right and all, because generally we try to derive on the basis of dharma shastra, and also there can be many interpretation of what has been said in dharma shastra also, and what has been said even later in by Tulsidas in Ramcharitmanas, that also has been misinterpreted. And that is also people are talking about, scholars have discussed about that. So these are very important points, and I think we have to again, as in the last discussion also, we talked about presenting a new narrative, or the narrative which is countering the existing ones or the prevailing ones, or we can say which is much circulated. So we also need to circulate. So in that direction, I think Abhishek, this talk was very useful, and we should organize such thought. And due to the paucity of time, I can understand in limited time you can present only some aspects of it. But then I think this can be either discussed in chronologically. This can be discussed in part, like there can be one lecture, part one in ancient India, something, then medieval India, because there is a lot to talk about in medieval India also. Either when you talk about when Islam came here, Islamic, I mean the Islamic rule. During that, the gender, like revisiting the gender issue, that's very important, and that is missing from our historical research. that has been less
Especially
focused
in
upon.
academics.
Yes,
Mhm.
academic. So I
Yes.
think these are
Okay.
the things. I mean, that way this talk is very useful. Such talk should be organized. So I formally Anjali ji will thank, or I think if anybody needs to add something, one can add still for a few minutes, because she said that there is a queue of, and there are many other events which are lined up. So if you want to
Oh, just
sum up, Anjali ji,
saying,
finally you can
Gayatri,
sum
you
up.
have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, we can. Gayatri, just 2 minutes, literally, because I
Yes.
really have
Yeah,
to go and free
yeah.
up the
Just
Zoom.
one sec. Just one sec. A small caveat, please. I would like all scholars in this area to, or I would like all scholars in this area to please read this text in original Sanskrit. Please try to, because otherwise you're reading in translations which are other people's analysis of things which could distort. So please read it in original Sanskrit, number one. Number two, as far as property rights are concerned, there is much deeper things in this. I would request you to read the Daya Bhaga, Mitakshara, and the Marmakattayam laws to know the property rights of women. Here in this talk, it was very outwardly, I mean, I would say quite shallow. Excuse me to say that, because there is a lot more to it. And since we have very less time, so I wouldn't go into it, but there's a lot more to it. For example, it's not just Sridan. Sridan is something which is given during marriage, and it is concerned as portion of the woman's right to property. Because see, those days we had, I mean, we
Gayatri,
were
you're
all
getting cut off. But
right.
absolutely got the
Very
point. Reading this in
outwardly
original
this is
Sanskrit, that's
done.
the first.
Yeah, much later. So it needs a much more important discussion. We can't go it in a very shallow manner. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I will add to that. She is very right. And we said about Dayabhag and Mitakshar. Yes. And Dayabhag, which was followed in Eastern India and till today also, and Mitakshar in rest part of India. But yes, you are right. But apart from that, also, there are so many things like property rights for, like dasas and dasis, and so many things are there. I mean, it's a very what actually, and you rightly said. First thing I really think that one should go to the original text. But as I said, due to the paucity of time, I mean, just it was presented and he only quoted from some important text or some, that is one thing. But secondly, yes, the text, the original text or the language, that's very important, because that has been either misinterpreted or that has been, translated by, last lecture we saw that how, colonial, writers, how they have presented, how they have distorted the fact, or rather they have presented in a very different way. So these are very important points. What you are telling is very right. Therefore, I said that such kind of lecture can be organized in part wise. That if we focus on one particular time period, then we will be able to focus on sources also. But suppose we take a wider period, then it will be like a very kind of general kind of kind of discourse. So that is well taken, I suppose.
Yes, yes. I'll add to ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you are very right. That one has to read Sanskrit text. And I'll be very honest about this, that I'm not very good at reading Sanskrit text. But I do depend upon translations, and this is how the thing is. The problem that I found that people even don't read translations. One thing, and there are certain what we call it as different translations also, so one can look at it, translations, different translate, compare them also. Second thing, with respect to inheritance, obviously I'm very right. As deep as you will go into a text, you will come up with a lot of things. As far as Dayabhag Mitakshara is concerned, they are again medieval text. Okay. So as far as Apastama Dharma Sutra is concerned, or Parashar Dharma Sutra is concerned, they are Smriti texts, which are ancient Smriti texts. One of the oldest one is Apastama. So the whole aspect, understanding, comparing Dayabhag Mitakshara with Apastama is basically, a lot of sensibilities have changed over a period of 1,000, 1,500 years that we are discussing. So it is also one thing. However, as I've told you, even the commentary that is being written upon Apastama Dham Sutra is even older than it has been written by Haradatta. It is 11th century text, which is even older than the Abhag and Mitakshara text. So the commentary, even the Bhashya that is even written upon Apastama Dham Sutra, that is the commentary to explain it, is older than Daya, Bhag and Mitaksha. So the whole sensibility of inheritance and the property rights and whatever with respect to son, daughters is, over a period you can't compare Apastamba and, what Daya, Bhag and Mitaksha would come in. However, this is there. This is I absolutely agree with you that Sanskrit has to be read. If you read in original text, you will develop your own understanding and more. Such kind of things should be supported. Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
And to all the academics here, if you have someone who's working on manuscript, of such a scholar on to clear many doubts and centuries worth of Manu bashing, so to speak. I want to close out with just again thanking everyone. We will of course put this up on our YouTube channel, so please do go find that. And Parasharji, thank you again for your time. You've opened up so many doors, so I want to thank you for your time. Dr. Verma, thank you. Dr. Els, we'll catch you next time. Really need to go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Namaste, right?
Mhm.
Namaste.